That's dedication. Good morning, all. Crypto Bureau, good morning. Mr. IDK, good morning. Good morning. Mr. IDK just said that he's joining from 35K feet. That's called dedication. That's insane. Thank you so much. I hope you don't um, suck out all the internet connection from the entire flight for this translation. I really appreciate it. Sandeep, good morning. Um, there was some technical difficulties, so apologies for the delay. We should have started on time. But the technical difficulties should be fixed now. So let's go through the um, this little presentation over here. So the updates are we are at 117 nodes at least. At the high, I'm seeing 126 nodes as of yesterday at least. But we are very cautiously updating how many nodes we have just not to overshoot. There's no point to just report a huge number if this number is not met. So at this point in time it's 117, but again I've seen 100. I personally have seen 126 as of yesterday. So the chances are we are 10 points above, 10 nodes above. There has been some type of slowdown as of recent. That's fine. That's expected, and we are scheduling a couple of calls next week with some of you guys. Um, so yeah. Now let me just say good morning to everybody. Ojan, good morning. Van Chin, good morning. Anubov, what's up, man? B, hi. Two more coming. Ojan Kid wrote that two more nodes, I'm assuming, coming in just a few minutes, which is amazing. So 117, right? So that is top 45 percentile. So we are better than 56% of blockchains out there. And we are officially, Ghost is officially top 40 blockchains as of today. Now there have been some again from the chains that are above $100 million in market capitalization, right? So we're not top 40 probably, overall. There are definitely some chains that have more than 40 chains that have 117 nodes, but we're looking specifically for the market cap of $100 million or above. So that's quite an achievement. And Wales, thank you so much. Now the next one is the fact that we finally beat Thor chain. So some of our council members in particular have been huge fans of Thor. We can say if Thor is decentralized or like central. Like we just didn't really dive deep into it. There are definitely some concerns based on our super high level overview of Thor chain back in the day, but Terra Classic and Celo, like this chart in particular, is very, very interesting because another council member is somewhat involved with Terra Classic, and we beat them already, which is quite interesting as far as the nodes. And we did that within 2 months. Now Terra Classic, this whole situation with the founder being extradited from Montenegro to the United States, so all these marketing um, updates, right? All this like press, all this coverage. And Terra Classic was supposed to take advantage of it, but didn't. It seems like because they could have easily shot for more, and they could have said, "Hey, free." I keep forgetting what his name is. It's Quan something, Korean name. So I do apologize for that. But um, I mean, the community could have easily placed like, "Hey, let's free the founder and like let's just get it all together." But still 110 notes. So that's another interesting player. We are live on Celo. We've been in talks with Celo. Celo is positioning themselves as EVM, which is a CO2 friendly. Okay, fine. They forked the Ethereum and they just made a kind of like a CO2 friendly website. Now, when we spoke to the team was, I would say professional, but I would say it was filled with managers uh, who may not see whose task is not to really see the vision, right? Like they're being tasked with certain KPIs and OKRs of what to do, and they're just doing that. But there are some, in the Second World War, there are some countries that just followed orders as well, right? Like, I mean, I'm not gonna like make those comparisons, but you know, in my personal involvement with Web3, if something was not Web3, I mean, I was notified the stakeholders that whatever we're doing is not Web3, and this is how to correct it. And it was up to them to correct it or not. But I raised, the issue, and whatever the issue raised was not accommodated, we left that project. Period. That was easy. So we only worked on projects that wanted to be Web3, pure Web3. So in the case of Celo, when you need to get marketing support only after completing KYC information, and the marketing co-marketing support includes making a retweet, I mean, that's fucking pathetic. Right, let's just be real. That's fucking pathetic. And I do understand if Celo had a huge, following, lots of TVL, some insane differentiation as far as the technology, like something, right? Like, what is Celo 10x better than anybody else? Um, I don't know. Like the CO2 friendly emission because they're proof of stake. Well, Ethereum switched to proof of stake as well, making Ethereum also CO2 friendly, right? So Celo, I think, was playing on same thing, like EVM compatibility, but on proof of stake. And they've done the same thing with I would say hundreds, but definitely tens of other similar chains that just wanted to take EVM and do proof of stake. But yeah, like this whole idea that in a Web3 world, for getting a retweet, we need to, like, if I was Celo, if I really wanted to attract in development talent to develop on Celo, if that was the task, what I would do, I would hire a team of auditors or a team of developers who would just audit the smart contracts in case you don't trust it, right? Because you want to ask for KYC in case you want to rug pull somebody, right? So I would, as part of Celo, would hire the developers, right, and just like say, hey, listen, like, here's the audit the smart contracts of Ghost NFT or audit the smart contracts of Ghost Airdrop. And if the audit goes well, just say audit went well. And that's what we found. Those are the vulnerabilities. It's all your own risk. But we're promoting this project because it's deployed on Celo. You don't even have to go towards the audit route. You could have just said with a disclaimer, we are promoting Ghost NFT. There is a disclaimer. We have not looked at the, like, same thing we did with Sergio's code. Like, Sergio, thank you so much for developing it. We didn't really like audit it. So we can't promote it saying that, like, that's like a native thing because we don't know. There could be some issues. We just don't know. But we still promote it. We just say that we, do this at your own risk. But that's it. Just put the disclaimer. If you're interested for developers to develop on Celo, but they didn't do this. So that begs a question of what was the objective of projects like Celo, right? Now, ThorChain, again, like, again, it was praised to be a good project by council, some of the council members. But then the question is, like, if you are that permissionless and decentralized on the mainnet with 116 nodes and a huge market cap of 1.2 billion, like, you definitely have resources to attract more nodes. Like, you definitely do. Why don't you attract more developers? Like, what's wrong? Like, why don't you expand the number of developers? The number of validated nodes. Like, why not? What are the limitations? Is it the code limitations because the requirements is too high? Or you have some type of decentralized proof of authority consensus mechanism? Like, what is it, right? Now, Oasis, that's the next target, which I think we beat already because, again, I think we're looking at 126 nodes. So Oasis, there was a story, we met with them, actually members of the team, myself as well, we met with the Oasis back in end of 2017. Back then, they were working on something quite interesting. They wanted to collect data. It was before AI became hot, 2017, so 8 years ago. They worked on trying to collect data for essentially vehicles, right? And then create a blockchain network that feeds that data and then uses that data for self-driving cars. I think that was the idea, right? So the idea was to collect the data on chain, collect the data, put it on chain as far as the analysis, and kind of integrate that protocol, that blockchain, into the vehicles, right? That into machine, like cars. That was 8 years ago. Like, such ideas actually existed. Like, real or not, it's a great fucking idea. It sounds amazing. We don't have ideas like this today. Today, the idea is how Tether can be compliant with MiCA rules in Europe. Like, like the way how the industry completely got out of style in just 8 years is spectacular, absolutely spectacular. And Oasis, I'm not sure if they're still working on the same concept. There definitely have been some limitations on the technical side, but like just the idea itself was brave enough, and we had lots of ideas like this. And um, so we have a little bit of history with Oasis, not as far as goes, just in the general Web3 space, but it's nice that we are beating Oasis as well, because Oasis raised quite a huge chunk of money. They worked, I think, with major European like enterprises, actual enterprises, to integrate blockchain technology. So that was quite interesting, but apparently something didn't work out. Sager, good morning as well. So on this front, those are quite updates. Some of the updates. In the remaining time, I would like to answer any questions you guys have, and also go over this new initiative of getting more validator nodes. Right? We wrote that before. Let me just verbally explain one more time what happened. Based on the data, that switch only happened 2 months ago, so it feels like it was like 2 years ago, but just 2 months ago, around early November of 2024. We jump started with 19 nodes. We did not have 100 plus nodes yet. We didn't have lots of you guys join yet. So it was mostly council members and some dedicated whales. So that was and there was some, yeah, that was pretty much it. So that set contained 19 validators originally. So in order to apply to become a validator, you just had to essentially write your username and add your wallet to the Ghosty file, Genesis file, and then once that's done, you were added automatically to the Genesis file. Now, as a validator, right? Now that whole like addition to become validated in the Genesis, it only exists really for for the testnet, and this like more or less manual like voting. Oh, let's select you as a validator or not. Like you have to like really persuade us to become a validator or not. That's for the testnet guys. On the mainnet, we're not gonna have this bullshit. On the mainnet, it's gonna be very straightforward. You're a node operator. You have enough stake. Okay, great. Just become a validator whenever you decide to. Once you're validated, now you have risk of being slashed if you're not 24/7, and that's pretty much it, right? So all this like stuff that we have in right now, as far as this community play of, oh please elect me as a validator, exists on the testnet. It's not going to be like this on the mainnet, right? On the mainnet, it's going to be very programmatic. Now the reason why it exists on the testnet is, well, that's the whole point of testnet, is we need to make sure that we get a solid community. So the exercise of, oh, that's what I do for Ghost, please elect me. Oh, I'm running these nodes, please elect me. It all serves as a learning curve, right? So now what's expected of validators, at least from my perspective, right? So me, since I'm a validator, and I do have initial allocation, so we had 19 validators starting early November 2024. And what happened was 2/3 of the validators must be present at all times to make sure that there's enough consensus nodes to finalize blocks. And we just didn't get to this consensus. So back then, as we all learning, some people thought that, oh, they can just apply for being a validator and that's it, and maybe run a node and that's it. But they don't need to update the node. They don't need to be active with the node. They just like set and forget, and that's far from the truth. So if you are a validator, you need to maintain your node. Your electricity is out, your machine is out. You need to physically turn it back on. Your electricity is or I don't know, or your internet is off. You need to make sure that your machine or your VPS is operational. So it's a pretty active involvement. It's not a full-time job. It's not even a part-time job. You just need to make sure that just like with your phone, you just need to make sure that your phone is always charged. You need to make sure that your node is always 24/7 operational. And lots of people miss that. So we got to maybe 12 or 13 nodes out of those 19, and we didn't get to this 2/3 of the consensus, and therefore the blocks were not finalizing. So what happened was the finalized blocks were if I remember correctly, like anywhere from 4,000 to 10,000 blocks were finalized, and almost 200,000 blocks were in production, something like that. Like I could be wrong with the numbers, and we have screenshots to prove all that stuff. Just scroll above in early November in Wales, and you'll see. But overall, like, there was a huge gap of non-finalized blocks, and that's a huge problem. So if the blocks are not finalized, no matter what the transactions you send, those transactions are not finalized. So you can't really send Casper, right? So network is not operational. So we waited almost a week for all or 2/3 of the validators to plug in, and they didn't plug in. And that's why the gap was extending and extending and extending. And it was extending and extending. And we were testing, like, we need to make sure that the blocks are being finalized because, we don't know. It's a testnet. We need to make sure ourselves that everything is working. So we made a vote on the weekend in like around maybe mid-November to essentially trying to verify who's active, who's not active. And only 10 validated nodes were active at that point of time. So the active node validators voted themselves into the genesis of like genesis file of being validators. So those 10 validators now maintaining the entire blockchain network. They are the ones who are finalizing blocks. And they're doing this pretty well because, as you can see in our telemetry, or you can see on our chain.ghostchain.io, like, we are, the blocks have been finalized with 2-3 block delay, which is exactly how it's supposed to be. And we are breaching 700,000 nodes, I believe. So 700,000 blocks, I believe. So boom. So it's all working great. So we did not make a mistake with those validators. However, anybody who wants to become a new validator, if you think that your node can be at some point of time not operational, or you don't know, or you're not sure, or you're not going to be responsive in TG because we need to make some updates and you're not there, don't nominate yourself for being a validator. I mean, you could. Nobody will, will restrain you from doing that. Like, nobody will prevent you. But keep in mind, validator is a huge responsibility. It's a huge, it's a huge power too. You'll get some, some allocation of Casper. It's kind of, different, definitely higher role. But it comes with the responsibility. Like, it has to come with responsibility. You need to be active in the chat. Because if you need to change something in the code base, all validators will need to be on call to change it. And if you're not on call, that's a problem, right? However, at the same time, the network is pretty active. What can I say? Because we asked lots of you guys to update your telemetry, and within 2 weeks, almost everybody updated their telemetry, which is insane, right? Like, we're at 99 or whatever, 98% update ratio, which is amazing. So what happened again? We are at 120 nodes or so, and you can see on telemetry, kind of. I'll demonstrate it. 1 second, maybe I'll demonstrate it better physically here. So as you guys can see here, so we have 120 nodes. And here somebody has 117 nodes, right? So 117 peers. So it means that real nodes is 118 at least, but the telemetry says 120. So it means that almost everybody updated their telemetry. Now, in reality, what I've seen, I think, 122 nodes at highest, while the number of peers at highest was 125 plus 1. That means 125 peers plus 1. That means 126 nodes. So 6 nodes did not update, and everybody else did. So the penetration ratio for us to update telemetry is 120 divided by 126, which is quite a high number. So it means the network is pretty freaking active. That's amazing. So that's what we can say about our nodes. But let me go back to the PowerPoint. Yeah. So my kind of that's the reason why we only have 10 validators today, and that's why we need more validators as we go. And at this point of time, we're going to be nominating up to 7 additional validators to have 17 validators total. That will be based on the Casper balances. However, that's just the framework that we're suggesting for other validators, right? So essentially, new validators can be voted in by old validators, and that's only going to be like this for the testnet. Now, if other validators will say, listen, like, I don't see somebody as top 7 Casper holders, I still want to nominate them for being a validator, that's their choice, because any validator can do that. There are no restrictions. Any validator can validate whoever, can nominate whoever they want. And then the validators will vote. And that's going to be true based on the proposal number 5, if I'm not mistaken. So what I would personally look into when voting people in is uptime 24/7. You need to make sure your node is 24/7 up. Now, node distribution is important. What does it mean, node distribution? Like, as it was correctly mentioned on the in the Whales chat yesterday, if you have one machine and this one machine has 20,000 nodes, that one machine goes down, 20,000 nodes go down. That's not good. So one node per machine, ideally, if that's a possibility. Geo distribution is also important. So it needs to be geographically kind of decentralized, right, as far as the node base. So, and geo is heavily played by running your node on the machine. If you don't have a physical machine for your node, as opposed to a VPS, you gain your geo distribution significantly. Why? Because VPSs, virtual servers, have limited number of geographies, and those geographies repeat. But if you're running this out of your own, house or whatever, that's pretty much. You can use a proxy, of course, to hide your identity, etc., through a VPN. But still, it's going to be your location attached to your geographical location, right? Essentially. So, and that adds to the resilience of the network. So, geo distribution is also important. The more distributed it is, the better. At this point of time, the least penetrated regions for us are Latin America, Africa, and Asia. I think Asia is weak. Outside of Southeast Asia, comprising of India. I would say, we have nobody in Japan, nobody in China, nobody in South Korea. Southeast Asia with Vietnam is non-existent. We have some nodes out of Singapore, I believe, but that's pretty much it. Thailand is not there, so we don't have it, right? Like we don't have any representation. Africa is completely empty at this point of time. Latin America is completely empty at this point of time. So we need to, dive into those regions. US is pretty good, Europe is pretty good, but Europe is pretty good, comprising of both, users who are physically running machines, but also through VPSs, right? And finally, network contribution. So network contribution means, if you contribute to the network, bring more users, bring your network, become council members if you want to, earn GMB tokens or points in such a way that actually helps the network, right? So those points are important, but that's again just my personal decision-making tree. Every single individual, every single validator will have their own bullet points, and that's it. That's how it's going to work. So you just said, "Sup guys, join from the mountains, Norway. What's up? What's up? What's up?" And I guess the next one. So at this point of time, as of yesterday, January 10, 2025, we had a number of Casper balances. And those Casper balances had been, they get updated every single day. We don't have, some type of, centralized database at this point of time. We're just scraping the data ourselves from the chain. And these are the top 7 outside of the validators. And they upgraded significantly, I think, because I know I'd sent some to some nominees. I know that you guys, other validators, sent some to some nominees as well. So this table will be updating every single day. I think the deadline is mañana, tomorrow. 11:59 p.m. EST on Sunday, January 12th, for final balances of Casper to be counted, and then that table will be presented essentially for the validators to vote in. And I think some of you guys are making some cool changes and kind of contributions and helping summarize the data of the nominees and accounts, and you guys nominate yourselves. The only thing that the 2 big corrections that I need to make sure I mention, first of all, nominate yourself. If you think you're 24/7, nominate yourself. That's it. Like, nominate yourself. Make sure, and if you don't have enough support, get that support. Start advocating for yourself, right? Like, start presenting why you are the best validator, why your node is going to be 24/7, how you're going to be enriching the network. That's exactly the right timing to do that. And item number 2 is, do not think that Casper token means something. Like, that's not a freaking airdrop, as it has been mentioned last week. It's not an airdrop. It will not convert into anything. Like, if you are hoarding to Casper token, you're doing it, like, you're just doing it wrong. Like, it's wasting your time. Casper token should be used for you to transact, so to know how you can send tokens. And you should use Casper to support your candidates. That's it. That's how it should be done. So those of you who got 0.69 Casper, send it to your nominees. Like, don't hoard. You don't have to send the entire 0.69. You can send 0.1, 0.2. Doesn't matter. Send stuff. Like, support your candidates. That's very, very important. Okay. Mr. Adike was asking, why do some nodes see so many 116 and other nodes not so much 10 to 20? So I believe that some nodes hacked something on, in their node. So we don't advise to do this, and some people who did it, they did it, and that's why they see more nodes. That's it. I personally think I see the highest I've seen was 20 peers. So, and that's enough. It's fine. When I was sending stuff yesterday, I think I've seen 9 peers. And it was totally fine. Like you don't need 120 peers. Like you really don't need that. Like it's whatever you see is fine. But that's a great question. Okay, gentlemen and ladies, you should be asking questions if you have any regarding the nominations, regarding anything. And what I would like to focus our attention from here on is telemetry. Right. So on the telemetry, you probably don't know, but we have this map. That's probably what you see. So this is a huge cluster of VPSs. This is a huge cluster of VPSs, which we mentioned last time. Not necessarily very good. What you guys also need to know is that if you click here, you see lots of all the nodes and how many peers each node sees. Yes? Okay. Now, what many of you don't know maybe is, or didn't check out, is you also have statistics right here. And while we have amazing statistics as far as nodes right now, thanks to Whales, we can significantly improve it. Like it's not like we can improve the number of nodes, but we should also be improving the fundamentals simultaneously. So yes, we're beating lots of chains as far as nodes, but what we don't like necessarily is this distribution here: virtual machine, yes, no. 43 are running machines, and 72 are running VPSs. And if you compare ourselves to Polkadot, for example, so I go to Polkadot right there, right? It's the same library because we are substrate based, and we go to statistic, and we look at the virtual machine or not, you see it's like kind of 50-50. In fact, it's actually more machines, physical machines, 52% versus 48% VPSs. So of course, it's more prevalent for us to have this statistic improve towards machines. So if you can improve it, if you have machines to run the machine. Somebody was asking, can I do a machine? Can I do a VPS? Yes, you can. Of course, you can do 2 nodes, 3 nodes, however many nodes you want, you can. But if possible, focus on the machine because that network will just physically be more resilient. Because if something happens to the VPS and this whole chunk here disappears, like some of those are physical machines, but I believe this chunk is VPSs. And then this chunk is VPSs disappears, we lose as a network. We instantly lose 73 nodes. And we left with 43. And that's just not good. And during this downfall, network can be captured by 51% attack. Is that a real scenario? Fucking absolutely yes. It's an absolutely real scenario. Right? So keep in mind, like you guys building this network, keep in mind that node is good. Node is definitely better than no node, but at the same time, if it's possible, definitely run your nodes on the machines. UG is asking, does every node automatically have 0.69 Casper? No, every single node automatically has 0 Casper, except for validators who got an allocation of 100 Caspers, 69 Casper for being a validator, and 31 Caspers of just stash that they can send to other members. So 0.69 is that's the number that we elect to send, but you can send any number. You don't have to send 0.69, you can select anything. Lorenzo, telemetry will be reset again. If we are to reset the network, the telemetry will be reset again. And then once everybody updates their nodes for the new chain, then it will be going back to normal. So yes, absolutely. So that's why it's important to make sure that you have access to your nodes. Either through SSH or you bring them with you, doesn't matter, you need to have access to your nodes. Amit, option to current node runners to migrate transfer to local machines. It's an option. I believe you asked that question last week as well. So maybe you asked this question in the chat in the Whales. So I mean, at this point in time, it's slightly more complicated, right? Because you need to have access to a private key and therefore just migrate your private key from your VPS to a machine. At this point of time, if you want to add the machine, do not cut down your VPS. Just keep it and then just start a machine. Of course, like it's obvious that you will have your private key and therefore you'll be able to transfer your Casper from your node 1, which is VPS, to your node 2, which is physical machine, and boom, you're good. But before we have all the user interfaces that, so you can do this already, like obviously, right? It's a network, obviously, but we just don't have user interfaces. So before we have user interfaces, just start up a second node, which is a physical machine for now, without shutting down your first node. Make sure both nodes are running so you have your Casper. Now for the nominations also will be like we say that it's going to be up to 7 nodes, right? Who are new validators, but not necessarily. Let's assume one person runs 5 nodes, and that one person is elected as a validator. We, as validators, may say, hey, listen, let's add all 5 nodes that you have running right now to also be added to the Genesis. So because we're interested to have as many validators as possible, right? Like we have to manage our risk to make sure that we don't have, like, if we add 100 validators today and then 2/3, 1/3 is not there for some reason, the finalization struggles. So that's a risk for us. So we need to make sure 2/3 is always present. However, at the same time, the opportunity is to have as many nodes as possible, as many validator nodes as possible, because that way we have high level of decentralization. So those are the balances that we'll be selecting. I think that all validators will be selecting between. Like let's add as much decentralization as we can at this phase, without sacrificing potential loss of finalization at the moment. Okay. What else I wanted to cover? Maybe the last point. And if you guys have questions, please shoot your questions now, because we may finish without the questions like in the next 5 minutes. As far as bringing more node operators, so we would like to have additional calls with some of the groups, some of the pools, this week, next week. I think that's going to be very important for us to essentially revisit what is needed for you guys to start adding more nodes. Maybe the number that we should be shooting for is no longer 100 or 200. Maybe the number should be, let's say, 1,000 or more of nodes that we should be shooting for. Maybe, again, like we don't have a specific number. There's no specific number of nodes that will, enable us to go mainnet. Right? It's not that. It's more like a feel. It's an art, not science. But if you could be shooting, say, for 1,000 nodes, which will definitely add more security, right, for all of us, for all the users of the network, of the protocol. It may be important to ask yourself what is preventing you from bringing additional nodes, and run that by us, run those reasons by us, and see maybe we can help. I know certain groups can definitely bring more nodes, and they've been publicly announcing that. And we would like just to see how we can help if we can in any way. I don't think we need to help there, but for those of you who didn't bring anybody yet, start asking yourselves what's preventing you. Like, did you have conversations yet? Maybe you don't have a network. And we had this discussion yesterday as far as how many people did we physically bring versus bringing virtually, right? Like how many people in the network that we kind of familiar from the offline versus online. And online so far is definitely beating offline, but offline is more sticky. Offline is extremely sticky. Yeah, it's not the same numbers. Like, and maybe at this point of time it's maybe 40, 60, 40 is offline, 60 is online, but 40% offline is so freaking sticky. It's incredible. And we need to fight. We need to go and fight for sticky. The stickier the node operator is, the better. So ask yourself this question. In the meantime, what we are trying to do is we are reaching out to some node runner groups. We're reaching out to some college clubs interested in blockchain. We finally got the response from academic institution. I believe yesterday for the first time we reached out to 30 institutions, I believe. So far, we're definitely getting some good response from node operators, from node runners. That's about maybe 10% conversion roughly. So we are working on that specific data set of node runner communities to reach out to. So, and maybe you, gentlemen and ladies, should do the same. essentially try to create lists of, maybe computer science major people around you, your sons, your nephews, your buddies, your fathers, your dads, your aunts, your whatever girlfriends, like whoever is computer science major, whoever is interested in blockchain. You'll be surprised how hungry lots of people are to do something decentralized, because everybody's fucking tired of this whole, Web 2.5. And the reason why we say that Web 3 is and Ghost is as strong as its community is, A, we need to make sure that the community is improving. Like we are learning. We have a steep learning curve, all of us. If we're not, highly technical, we need to become somewhat technical to make sure that, we can operate the network. That's one. And B, we still need to somewhat grow the network a little bit. But it's the community that needs to grow community, right? So on one of the previous calls, maybe 4 months ago, we spoke about tribes and how the tribes are, supposed to grow. And I think they're growing just like they're supposed to grow. Like we pretty much outlined in that book by Seth Godin, which is called The Tribes. We tried that theory, and it seems like it's working. And again, thanks to all the whales, it's working. So we just need to keep powering on that specific strategy of community bringing community, and we're making sure that every single new community member is better than the average of the existing community, right? Because if every single new person is better than the average, it means that the community is getting stronger. Okay, let me answer the question by Mr. IDK, and unless we have any other questions, we'll be done. When the mainnet launches, will there be a way to pull your node temporarily offline and not get slashed? Example, I'm traveling and can't watch the node 24/7 for a few days or a few weeks or so. Absolutely right. So the only way how the node on the mainnet is slashed is if you tell the network that you are online and then you, for some reason, go offline. Because the network relies on you. So if you do go offline, you will be slashed. However, if you tell the network, guys, I'm going to be offline for the next month, you just pull out of the network. You don't get any staking rewards. You don't get any APY, but you definitely don't get slashed because the network does not rely on your nodes anymore. So the slashing only happens when you told the network that you are online and you're not online. But if you told the network that you are offline, that you are going to be offline, no slashing. That's a great question. All right. Thank you so much. Let's see us next week. Next week, we'll see how many nodes we'll have, but maybe it would be nice for us by the end of the month to jump to 150, 200 nodes. I'm not sure how that's possible because we only have 20 days, but let's see. In Ghost we trust. See you.